Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Rabbi.
We are learning Mishna Gittin, Parak Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishnah Mishnah 1. Kol get, any bill of divorce, shenichtav shaloi l'shem isha, that was not written for the sake of the woman being divorced, pasal is invalid. Now that's a very general statement because the Mishnah is going to go through a number of, let's call it even levels of how far that can go or how far that does go. But the starting statement is that any get written not for the woman being divorced is invalid. Ketzad, how so? Haya over bashuk. A man was passing through the market, v'shama kol sefer makrin, and he heard the voice of scribes, makrin, was that dictating to the students. Ish pleni, megarish as plenis, makam pleni. So-and-so is divorcing so-and-so from this and this place. So this is an example of where you have a sofer, right? A professional sofer, a scribe, and he's training others. So when he's training them, he's trying to train them how to write a get. So he says to them, and he basically what he's doing is, he is saying to his students, a scribe was teaching his students how to write a get. To do so, he chose a man's name, a woman's name, and the name of a town, and dictated them to the students to practice writing a standard get. It was a class. It was a class in writing a get. So when he was dictating to them, an example that they should write. So he said a name of a man, name of a woman from this and this place. The Yamar, and the person who overheard this, he said, Zeshmi, this is my name, V'seshem Ishti, and this name of my wife. Hey, I'll just go take one of those. So, pasal l'garish play. You can't use it because it wasn't even written for a divorce. It was a practice get. It wasn't even written for the purpose of a divorce. So, for sure, no good. Yes, amikan, more than that, meaning a step further. Kasav l'garish bayis ishtay. A person wrote a get, had a get written for his wife. V'nimlach, he changed his mind. He's not doing it, he's not going to get a divorce. So someone from the same town said to him, Shmika Shimcha, my name is like your name. The name of my wife is like the name of your wife. So let me have that one. You wrote a get for your wife. The names are all the same. The place is the same. The date is going to be the same. Everything will be the same. So I'll just take yours. Nope, doesn't work. Pasal l'garish bay. It is invalid to use for divorce. Why? Because it was written for the wrong people. It was written for different people. It was written for a different, even though the same name, all the information is the same, but it's written for different people. So although it was written for the purpose of divorce, but it wasn't written for the same people, doesn't work. That's another step in this law. Yesa Mikain, more than that. Guy has two wives, both have the same name. He wrote a get to divorce the older one. Doesn't have to be the older one. It's just trying to identify the difference between the two of them. He wrote to get to divorce the older one, and then he decides, you know what? I'm going to use it for the younger one. Same name. You cannot divorce the younger one with it. Because now, although in this case, from the man's point, it was written for that man to perform gerushin, but it wasn't written for that specific woman that he wants to divorce. They have the same name, same husband, but at the end of the day, the get was not written for this specific woman that he's divorcing. No good. Yesemi Kane, more than that. Omar Lalavla, he told the scribe, Ksaiv, write a get. Le'ezer she'eretza agarish. And whichever one I want, I'm going to divorce. Meaning he hasn't decided which wife he's divorcing, right? Meaning they both have the same name, and he's saying, write a get for me with this and these names and this place, and whichever one I'll decide later to divorce, that's what I'll use this for. So basically, he's telling the cipher, the scribe, to write the get for whichever one he decides later to divorce. That's what he's saying, basically. Says the Mishnah, pasal l'garish bay. You cannot use that get because at the time that it was written, we didn't know which one it was for. It may come out later on, you told the guy, write the get for whichever one I'm going to divorce. And later on he decides which one he's going to divorce. Okay, so now later on it becomes determined, which one he was writing for, but not at the time that he was writing it. And as Abar Tanura says, although he said that it should be written for the wife he eventually decides to divorce, his later decision cannot retroactively establish that this is the wife for whom it was originally written. Because at the time that it was written, there was no clarity who it was. So fine. Later on, we know who he wanted. Later on, he decides he wants a divorce, which means later on we can say, okay, later on we know that this was the one that he was writing it for. But when he was writing it, he didn't know. And the fact that later on it becomes clear to us doesn't help to say retroactively that that's the way we should consider it. That's the way it was even when he wrote it. That was for this woman. And therefore, since when he wrote it, it was not specifically or clearly it was not specifically for the woman being divorced. And at that time, nobody knew which one it was going to be. Therefore, that's not a get that was written lishma. That's the wording that's used, lishma, for her sake. But it's not only for her sake, it has to be for his sake. And the Mishnah went through all these different levels and examples to show us how far this halacha is about writing the get for the specific man and woman who are going to be divorced with this, or who the divorce is going to take place between with this document. Have a wonderful day.